صعبة. اعملوا إشي إن الله.
شغلي بسرعة واكتبي لأن صعبة وتنزف.
فكرة رائعة. وتنسيش تكتبي لهم بالإنجليزي she's bleeding and then please say إيش؟ إيش جد؟ تفرج على السوشيال ميديا. طلع شوف أطفال مشنخة مرمية على أفلام الشوارع. فكرك عن جد صار طفل صغيري خايف راح يأثر فيهم أو يفرق على حدا. هي بحاجة أمبولانس.
I obviously want to congratulate you. Obviously, I saw the film at the Venice premiere, and I, for me, it's probably one of the most memorable, most emotional experiences I've had in my lifetime. And I really want to thank you for not only opening my eyes once again, but also really, having the courage and the bravery to really display this kind of person's story and bring it to the world who, when so often Palestinian lives are ignored or overlooked, or because they are the oppressed, they don't matter as much to people. So I really want to, congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
So, and I guess my first question would be, why do you think, or how does cinema enable you to give voice to the voiceless?
Uh, this is a very good question. At least this is how I think about cinema. Um, Hind Rajab had a voice. She's not voiceless. And this movie is called Hind Rajab Voice, the voice of Hind Rajab, because I heard her voice on social media, and we all know how social media works. It's about amnesia, scrolling, and I thought that I needed to honor her voice in cinematic form that can like give her the space and the place and the to be listened to. So I'm giving her back her voice, because she had a voice, and yeah, I think that cinema can be a place to listen, to see, and also to feel empathy, and to understand, as you said, what we call the voiceless, the oppressed. To understand the mechanism that can be on their life, but also can lead to their death. And this is the case of Hind Rajab.
And, with Western media nowadays, or everyone there has this kind of frustration that we see where it's always the headlines, articles, wherever they always go by the press's words first. They never really look towards the victim, the one who's suffering the most. We always see, as Israeli said, or as Israeli Defense Force says. But in your case, you're obviously shedding light to such a powerful and obviously tragic human experience that is obviously unquestionably horrible what has happened. Why do you feel, is there any kind of responsibility you felt, or in terms of trying to push against that bias that the media and the way the world works against the oppressed?
Yes, sure, because um, the fact that I'm an independent filmmaker, I don't have people to tell me what to say and what to do, and that gives me the freedom, to talk about what I want to do. So, seeing what's happening in the in mass media, especially in the Western world, where Palestinian are just numbers, and sometimes they are called collateral damage, which is very humiliating for their memory. I felt that, as I said, you know, cinema can again be a place where And this is the role of cinema, to experience the life of others, to have a place where you can put yourself in the shoes of the other, the Palestinian. And we know why, like we are in a place where we have an oppressor, a powerful oppressor that can have propaganda and can tell different stories. But finally, when you ask people, because all this is done by design, it's like done just not to consider the Palestinian as a human, because when you don't know the Palestinian, and the human brain don't like what he don't know, so he's afraid of he don't know. So all this is done by design around this point, but when you resist against that, when you make an artistic proposition, a film, a play, a book, to explore what does it mean to be Palestinian, what does it mean to be oppressed, you give the human brain this experience of empathy, of understanding, and this is very precious.
So, one of the things I found interesting is that in Rajab's voice is so of course, it's the factual, the historical, and it's where you got the recordings. But the rest of the story is like a recreation. So trying to mix in that documentary slash kind of docudrama is such an interesting combination. I wanted to know how, when you were filming, how emotionally and I guess powerful it was for you to go through that process of creating this story, as opposed to when you first watched the film when it was completed.
Yeah, when you decide to do a movie, a film is a rational decision, it start for me at least with a very strong emotion when I heard the voice of Hind Rajab for the first time. And when you take the decision to make the movie, you start making choices. I mean, my job as a filmmaker, because this story was written, it's a true story. It's rooted in anchored in facts, and there were been investigation. The Washington Post did a great piece about it. The forensic architect, they did a great job investigating the killing of Hind Rajab. So the story was, let's say, written. What I did, me as a filmmaker, was to make several choices to say from which point of view I'll tell this story. What does it mean to talk about the genocide while the genocide is still happening? How to use the tools of cinema to make this story impactful, and to make the voice of this little girl resonate around the world beyond, cultural and ethnic appartenance, so all my decision in the writing, for example, the fact that I decided to not film what is happening in the car, but film those who were listening to this little girl, the fact that I needed to recreate this moment, to do a movie in the present tense, not a movie talking about something that happened in the past, but go back to this moment where it was possible to save her. All those are conscious decision, looking for the most impactful result, and also taking into consideration the ethical questions of how to film, how to talk about a genocide while it's happening. So then, when you make all those choices and you decide that this movie will be in the offices of the Red Crescent, the offices of those who listened, of those who did everything in their power to save this girl, for me it was the right distance, And then when once again, you make all those decisions. You start sharing this with with your crew and your cast. And this is another type of work because it became collective work. So what the intention you wanted to convey in the movie, you share them with your actors. For example, the fact that I wanted this story to be told in the present tense. Uh, what does it mean? It means that, for example, I asked the actor if they are comfortable with the idea not to rehearse with the voice of Hind Rajab in the recording, to hear it for the first time during the shooting, so they can be in that moment, like me, the first time I heard her voice, but most importantly, like the real character heard her voice for the first time. They weren't rehearsing, they have training, but it was the first time they hear her voice. So we did this with the actor, for example. It was emotionally very how to say, hard to do for them. But what we see on the screen, it's not acting, it's their genuine reaction to the situation. So I needed to do a movie beyond performance, beyond acting, something that can feel authentic and can convey this immediacy that we feel in the voice of Hind Rajab when we hear it for the first time.